afternoon. You're listening to Ken Hudnall. This is the Ken Hudnall Show. Coming to you from our studios right here in exciting El Paso, Texas. Gateway to the Old West and the most haunted city in the country. Well, today is February 26th, the 57th day of the year. Just 308 days remain to the year's over with. And we get to go do it again. It's National Tell a Fairy Tale Day. If you want to hear fairy tales, listen to Congress. National Pistachio Day. Levi Strauss Day. National Pink Shirt Day. Anybody who wants to stand up for kindness and respect, put on a pink shirt. Now, when I was in elementary school, that would get you an ass whipping at recess. It's also a Letter to an Elder Day. And a National Tongue Twister Contest Day. Tex Avery Day. National Carpe Diem Day. Live life to the fullest and make the most of each moment. The National Carpe Diem Day is the ideal opportunity to celebrate living in the present. It's the most important part of clearly the most important part of National Carpe Diem Days to do what it says. Seize the day. Carnival Day. Inconvenience Yourself Day. National Set a Good Example Day. For Pete's Sakes Day. Maha Shivarati. It's a Hindu festival celebrated in honor of Lord Shiva, the deity of destruction and transformation. National Eating Disorder Awareness Week. National Chip Week, be it potato chips and or french fries. National Justice for Animals Week. Maslenitsa Festival, that's a Russian festival. Venice Carnival. Make Mine Chocolate. National Green Week. National Invasive Species Awareness Week. Cornish Pastry Week. Peace Corps Week. Every year, hundreds of volunteers go to other countries to try to help, and in most cases, their help is, I won't say despised, but certainly not treated with the respect it should be. Famous people born on this date: Johnny Cash, the Man in Black. International Vegan Cuisine Month. American Heart Month. National Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. National Snack Food Month. Spay Neuter Awareness Month. And I'm talking about pets, not people. National African American Read-In. National Children's Dental Health Month. Human Relations Month. National Macadamia Nut Month. Feline Fixed by 5 Month. Exotic Vegetables and Star Fruit Month. Berry Fresh Month. National Therapeutic Recreation Month. Marijuana Awareness Month. Financial Aid Awareness Month. We all need financial aid. National Goat Yoga Month. Adopt a Rescued Rabbit Month. National Mend a Broken Heart Month. National Wedding Month. Canned Food Month. North American Inclusion Month. National Black History Month. Renaissance of the Heart Month. Renaud's Awareness Month. Pull Your Sofa Off the Wall Month. Spiritual Teachers Month. National Senior Independence Month. National Laugh Friendly Month. National Enrolled Agents Month. National Care About Your Indoor Air Month. National Boost Self-Esteem Month. Free Open Source Software Month. From Africa to Virginia Month. National Sweet Potato Month. Fabulous Florida Strawberry Month. National Avocado and Banana Month. National Cancer Prevention Month. Cholangiocarcinoma Awareness Month. Spunky Old Broads Month. National Blockbuster Month. Ethnic Equality Month. National Cat Health Month. Humpback Whale Awareness Month. Dog Training Education Month. Declutter for a Cause Month, National Prevent a Litter Month, Creative Romance Month, the Fair to Remember Month, National Women Inventors Month, National Embroidery Month, Youth Leadership Month, Haiku Writing Month, Jobs and Golf Month, Leave the Bus Month, Celebration of Chocolate Month, Potato Lovers Month, Barley Month, Wise Healthcare Consumer Month, National Self-Check Month, National Condom Month. That must be why USAID wanted to give $50 million worth of condoms to Gaza. Pet Dental Health Month, National Parent Leadership Month, Relationship Wellness Month, National Grapefruit Month, Low Vision Awareness Month, National Fasting February, Return Shopping Carts to the Supermarket Month, Great American Pie Month, National Bake for Family Fun Month, National Cherry Month, National Bird Feeding Month, National Hot Breakfast Month. Those hearty morning feasts that, in most cases, kickstart your day. National Library Lovers Month, and Harley Quinn Month. Well, doing our little history segment, in 747 BC, according to Ptolemy, the epic of the Nabonassar era began at noon on this particular date. Historians use this to establish the modern BC chronology for dating historic events. In 320 AD, Chandragupta I is officially crowned as the first Gupta emperor. 364, Valentinian I is proclaimed Roman emperor. 1266, the Battle of Benevento. Army led by Charles, Count of Anjou, defeats a combined German and Sicilian force led by Manfred, King of Sicily. Manfred gets killed in the battle, and Pope Clement IV invests Charles as King of Sicily and Naples. 1365, the Ava Kingdom and the royal city of Ava, founded by King Thado Mbaya. The Ava Kingdom, also known as Inwa Kingdom, or the Kingdom of Ava, was a dominant kingdom that ruled Upper Burma, now Myanmar, from 1365 to 1555. Founded in 1365, the kingdom was the successor state to the petty kingdoms of Minsang, Pinya, and Sagaijing that had ruled central Burma since the collapse of the pagan kingdom in the late 13th century. In 1606, the Jazun voyage of 1605 becomes the first European expedition to set foot on Australia, although it's mistaken as a part of New Guinea. 1616, Galileo Galilei is formally banned by the Roman Catholic Church from teaching or defending his view that the earth orbits the sun, because God told the church something different, at least according to the church. 1775, the British East India Company factory on Balambangan Island is destroyed by Moro pirates. 1794, the first Christian-born palace in Copenhagen burns down. 1815, Napoleon Bonaparte escapes from exile on the island of Elba. 1870, the beach pneumatic transit in New York City, intended as a demonstration of a subway line, opens up. 1876, Japan and Korea signed the Treaty of Kangwa, which grants Japanese citizens extraterritorial rights in Korea, opens up 3 Korean ports to Japanese trade, and ends Korea's status as a tributary state to the Qing dynasty of China. 1909, Kinemacolor, the first successful color motion picture process, is first shown to the general public at the Palace Theatre in London on this date. 1914, the HMHS Britannic, sister to the RMS Titanic, is launched at Harland and Wolff Shipyard in Belfast. 1919, President Woodrow Wilson signs an act of Congress establishing the Grand Canyon National Park. 1929, President Calvin Coolidge signs legislation establishing the 96,000-acre Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming. 1935. Adolf Hitler orders the Luftwaffe to be reformed, which violated the provisions of the Treaty of Versailles. 1935. Robert Watson Watt carries out a demonstration near Daventry that leads directly to the development of radar for the United Kingdom. 1936. In the February 26th incident, young nationalist Japanese military officers assassinate the multiple cabinet statesmen and start a rebellion in downtown Tokyo. It ended 3 days later. 1945, World War II. U.S. troops reclaimed the Philippine island of Corregidor from the Japanese. 1952. Vincent Massey is sworn in as the first Canadian-born Governor General of Canada. 1960. A New York-bound Alitalia airliner crashes into a cemetery in Shannon, Ireland, shortly after takeoff. Killed 34 of the 52 people on board. 1960. Kiev-bound Aeroflot airliner crashes on approach to Snilo Airport in Lviv. Killed 32 out of the 33 people on board. 1966 Apollo program saw the launch of AS-201, the first flight of the Saturn 1B rocket. 1971, U.S. Secretary General U Thant signs United Nations proclamation of the vernal equinox as Earth Day. 1979, the Superliner railcar enters revenue service with Amtrak. 1980, Egypt and Israel establish full diplomatic relations. 1987, Iran-Contra affair. The Tower Commission rebukes President Ronald Reagan for not controlling his national security staff. 1992, the First Nagorno-Karabakh War. Kohala massacre. Armenian armed forces opened fire on Azeri civilians at a military post outside the town of Kohala, leaving hundreds dead. 1993, World Trade Center bombing. This is the first bombing. New York City, a truck parked below the North Tower of the World Trade Center explodes. Kills 6 and injures over 1,000 people. We were on the way to the World Trade Center on the subway. And we stopped to pick up my glasses from where they were being repaired. And they couldn't find them. So it delayed us about 30 minutes. Otherwise, we'd have been there. 1995, the UK's oldest investment banking institute, Barings Bank, collapses after a rogue securities broker named Nick Leeson loses $1.4 billion by speculating on the Singapore International Monetary Exchange using what are known as futures contracts. 2008, the New York Philharmonic performs in Pyongyang, North Korea. First event of its kind to take place in North Korea. 2012, a train derails in Burlington, Ontario, Canada. Killed at least 3 people and injured 45. 2012, 17-year-old African-American student Trayvon Martin is shot to death by a neighborhood watch coordinator, George Zimmerman, in an altercation in Sanford, Florida. And of course, it led to the usual demonstrations, and never did hear the outcome of that. 2013, a hot air balloon crashes near Luxor, Egypt, killing 19 people. 2019, the Indian Air Force fighter jets targeted Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorist training camps in Balakot. And in 2021, a total of 279 female students aged between 10 and 17 are kidnapped by bandits in the Zamfara kidnapping in Zamfara State, Nigeria. The kidnapping occurred at the Government Girls Science Secondary School. That's a boarding school in Jangabe in Zamfara State, Nigeria. All hostages were released by the bandits on March 2nd, 2021, though claims vary as to the negotiation methods used by the Nigerian government in order to facilitate their release. This was Nigeria's second school kidnapping in February 2021, and the third within 3 months, claiming 633 victims in total. The incident took place 9 days after the Kagara kidnapping, when at least 42 hostages were taken from the school in Niger State. In December 2020, kidnappers abducted 344 school boys in Katsina State. In Nigeria, holding school children hostage for ransom has become fairly common. Armed criminals, described as bandits and labeled as terrorists by the Nigerian government, often carry out mass kidnappings because it's thought they're easier to control than adults would be. All right, we're going to see what we've got in the news today. Today was Trump's first meeting with top admin officials, and Musk addressed the Doge productivity email. They sent out emails to government employees wanting to know what they had done, 5 things they had done in the past week. Actress Michelle Trachtenberg, known for her role in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, died at the age of 39. She was found dead in a New York City apartment. Authorities found her at her residence after responding to a 911 call about 8 o'clock in the morning. Her death is not being investigated as suspicious. The cause of death is still to be determined by the medical examiner. She'd recently undergone a liver transplant. You thought this may be the result of that. Well, there have been many interesting stories circulating. And a lot of the things that have been discovered by Doge makes you wonder who's in charge of giving out our money. MSNBC, as part of their production cuts, is laying off Rachel Maddow's staff. She recently blasted MSNBC over its treatment of staffers. Joy Reid was fired, and Rachel Maddow was reduced to having, instead of being on 5 nights a week, she's on just 1. It ought to be on Mondays. That's in spite of her multi-million-dollar salary. Let's see. Jen Psaki is rising in the estimation of MSNBC. Maddow's most senior producers are spared, and staffers being cut have been invited by the network to reapply for open positions. MSNBC does not consider these widespread layoffs or resources being allocated to support new programs and priorities as anything unusual. The CDC is trying to defy President Trump's executive order. They're persistent. He took us out of the WHO, World Health Organization, but they're participating in the World Health Organization's vaccine conference. CDC confirmed this week it's going to go ahead and partake in the biannual conference on the influenza vaccine led by WHO. They made no comment about the president's executive order. In a speech, Vice President Vance condemned Soviet-era shift in the European democracies. And apparently, the Romanian far-right populist candidate who won the first round of Romania's council presidential election last year has been taken into custody for questioning by the country's top prosecutors. And 47 other addresses of people and associations connected with, his name is Georgescu, Călin Georgescu, have been raided by authorities. Prosecutors said the allegations among them included false statements regarding the sources of financing of an electoral campaign, legal possession of weapons, initiating or establishing an organization with a fascist, racist, or xenophobic character. Well, a lot of these representatives are losing their mind over what Musk is doing. Texas Democratic Representative Jasmine Crockett told Department of Government Efficiency Chief Elon Musk to F off in the latest example of her public opposition to the newly formed agency's push to cut government waste and spending. It's almost like they look at cutting spending being a personal affront. Well, President Trump has demanded that all the countries we've given money to pony up some resources. These weren't grants in many cases, they were loans. There are three consequences from Biden's cancellation of the Keystone Pipeline. And right now, it doesn't look like all of it can be rectified. Kelsey Ballerini defended her ex-husband, Morgan Evans, after fans shouted obscenities about him during a concert she was doing. She had to stop the concert to address him. Monica Lewinsky's back in the news. She was Bill Clinton's main squeeze while he was president. And Hillary set out to ruin her life. Attorneys have testified that the Biden Department of Justice was weaponized the FACE Act to imprison pro-life activists. It was a systematic campaign, according to some attorneys who were involved in it. Biden administration Department of Justice led a systematic campaign against pro-life protesters who were charged with violating the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act. Federal judge hints she's going to continue blocking Trump from firing the head of the Whistleblower Protection Agency. Trump first tried to fire him on February 7th. But these judges who are anointed by God, believe that what they want should trump what the president wants. I think we're going to see some of these judges facing removal. U.S. District Court Judge Amy Berman Jackson called the matter an extraordinarily difficult constitutional issue. She's going to take it under advisement again. Issued a temporary restraining order. She asked until this evening to extend the order. Jeff Bezos has announced big changes to the Washington Post opinion page and removed the top editor. He said, "We're going to be writing every day in support and defense of two pillars, personal liberties and free markets. We'll cover other topics as well, but the viewpoints opposing these pillars will be left to be published by others. Censorship, anyone? See, Scott Jennings snapped back at the CNN panel. His report shows Trump's actions are hardly dictatorial behavior. He's being far more transparent than any recent administration, according to Jennings. He's a CNN senior political commentator, and to see somebody with CNN actually not join in the lynching of President Trump is so refreshing. CNN panel suggested President Trump is a dictator, with a recent report showing that he'd been more transparent with the press than any other modern administration. But he's not putting up with a lot of crap either. Pope Francis has shown a slight improvement over the last 24 hours. And a sleep expert, I didn't know there were experts in sleep, reveals the top foods and drinks keeping you up at night. This is a study by the American Academy of Sleep Medicine. Name is Dan Gartenberg, PhD. You know, PhD stands for Pilot Higher and Deeper. He's a New York sleep health advisor at CPAP.com. Said a healthy diet that's rich in nutrients is essential for sleep quality and overall health. The foods and supplements that include GABA, G-A-B-A, can be particularly helpful. GABA is the most common inhibitory neurotransmitter that helps with sleep and relaxation. He said, think caffeinated tea, one more time, decaffeinated teas, fermented foods, cheeses, and legumes. There's some things that you should not eat or drink before going to sleep. First one is alcohol. It's one of the worst things you can consume. Coffee and tea. There are also drinks to avoid having at night if you want to achieve better sleep, since they contain caffeine. Chocolate and candy. The high sugar levels, don't you know? Citrus fruits, oranges, lemons, limes contain high amounts of citric acid. They can cause your stomach to produce more stomach acid. Spicy foods, such as hot peppers and hot chips and things of that type, are a bad option before bedtime. And all that having been said, that ends our news segment. Well, we've been talking about ghosts. You know, the paranormal. And of course, a lot of people are firm believers that ghosts exist. But you know, something else that exists that doesn't get a lot of attention. Monsters. You know, and there's different types depending on where you live. For example, for decades, British Isles played host to a decidedly mysterious and marauding beast. It's become known as the alien big cat, or the ABC. Cryptozoologists and monster hunters suggest the puzzle's an even older one, maybe dating back centuries. Regardless of when exactly the controversy began, the fact is pretty clear that dozens upon dozens of reports surface of large cats roaming the wild and sometimes not so wild parts of Britain. Very often, the cats are described as being huge and muscular and black in color. A lot of them referred to as Black Panthers, which is actually incorrect, but frequently used by both the public and the press. be far more correct to suggest the creatures are probably leopards and jaguars displaying a significant melanism. That's a condition in which there's an excess of black pigmentation. And as for how these creatures came to be seen across pretty much the entirety of the British Isles, been a lot of theories. Some researchers hold the animals have escaped from private zoos and enclosures and now living and thriving nicely in the country's woods. Others suggest that back in 1976, when the British government significantly altered the rules and regulations governing the keeping of large predatory animals, the owners of these cats couldn't afford to pay the new fees, so they released their pets into the wild. And today, according to that theory, what people are seeing are the descendants of those large cats set free in the 1970s. Other theories, of course, are far more controversial. One suggests that the ABCs may have been with us since roughly 43 AD, when invading Roman forces brought large cats to Britain as a form of mascots. Allegedly, some of those mascots escaped and managed to survive and breed, basically undetected. Now, breeding with what is another interesting question. Then there's the highly charged theory that Britain has in its midst an unidentified indigenous cat that science and zoologists have yet to recognize or categorize. Well, whatever the answer to that question or the origins of the British cats may be, the fact is their presence is pretty much accepted by both the general public and the media, although not really by the government, which prefers to play down the matter. But in actuality, while I'm categorizing them under monsters, they're not really monsters. It's frankly less flesh and blood based and far more paranormal based. There are cases of the ABCs vanishing literally before the eyes of astonished witnesses. People report large black cats encounters in old graveyards with ancient stone circles and on a few occasions in association with UFO sightings. Whatever the truth of the matter might be, the ABCs of the UK aren't going away anytime soon. Then we have reports of large black cats in both the United States and the UK. They become known as the alien big cats, as I said, or the ABCs, due to the fact that these creatures are seen in areas where they have no business being seen. After all, the UK is certainly not home to any known large cats, and the ABCs in the US are often reported in areas where government officials maintain that no such creatures can roam. Well, far less well known is the equally curious saga of the ABCs in Australia. And this is a topic that for years typically only attracted the attention of cryptozoologists and folks who styled themselves as monster hunters. It was thrust into the limelight in late 2008 when the Australian government decided to make its thoughts and date on the subject known publicly. In September of that year, when Nathan Rees, the Premier of New South Wales, Australia, declared openly into the media that the stories of the ABCs roaming the land weren't just the stuff of hoaxes, misidentification, or fantasy. He officially stated these creatures do exist, even if nobody knew exactly what they were. Now, this statement, of course, was completely at odds with comments Rees had made in August of 2008 when he essentially stated that the subject had no merit whatsoever and wasn't worth discussing. Now, you might ask what changed his opinion. It was a large dossier of ABC sightings in Australia, collected by elements of the Australian government. And this dossier was provided to him in early September of 2008. Made it for a very impressive reading, according to all reports. And it was because of Reed's words that the Australian officials decided rather than just collect these reports and file them away, they'd finally embark on an investigation of these reports. The program was focused on the state of Victoria, which was said to be a hotspot for alien big cat encounters, began in earnest in 2010. That was at the order of the Victorian National Party's Peter Ryan. 2 years later, September 18, 2012, the long-awaited report was finally published. And it wasn't the kind of thing that a lot of folks, particularly farmers who claimed to have lost substantial numbers of animals to the ABCs, were anticipating or hoping for. This report, titled Assessment of Evidence of the Presence in Victoria of Wild Population of Big Cats, concluded no such creatures are prowling around. Doesn't matter that there's something slaughtering the nation's farm animals. But when the powers that be speak, everybody fell in line. Minister of Agriculture and Food Security Peter Walsh tried to assure the skeptical public, as well as the doubtful media, that no alien big cats had ever been detected in a former wildlife survey, shot by a hunter or farmer, or killed by a vehicle, and no skeletal remains have ever been found. Nor, he said, have big cats been identified in wildlife studies involving the analysis of thousands of mammalian fecal samples. So that begged the question, what were people actually seeing then? According to Australian authorities, nothing stranger than overfed regular cats that had turned feral. A lot of folks who followed the story suggested and suspected the government was playing the matter down to avoid panicking the population by admitting that large and dangerous cats were on the loose. And despite a lot of criticism of the report, the Australian government was utterly unmoved. On the basis of the report's conclusions, further work focusing on obtaining primary evidence to conclusively rule out the existence of big cats is not warranted. That's kind of like Project Blue Book and the UFOs. They dismissed everything. And now it comes to light that there's been a lot of money spent conducting private studies. Well, that's where the matter stands today. Ranchers and members of the Australian public continue to see the alien big cats on a disturbingly regular basis. And not just in Victoria. Oh, no. All across Australia. Can so many people all be mistaken of but nothing stranger than tubby feral cats? Australian authorities say, oh, yeah. Eyewitnesses, however, hold very different views. Unless something unforeseen occurs out of the blue, such as the killing or capturing of an ABC in Australia, doesn't look like that situation is going to change. Well, from Australia, let's go to Wisconsin. Since 1991, the Wisconsin town of Elkhorn been the lair and hunting ground of a creature that's the closest thing one can imagine to a real-life werewolf. A lot of people say that's what it is, though. The monster has become known as the Beast of the Bray Road on account of the fact that any of the initial sightings were made on that particular road. And without doubt, the expert on all things of a lycanthropic nature in Wisconsin is author and journalist Linda Godfrey. He has written a half a dozen books on werewolves. According to what she had to say during an interview, the story came to her attention about 1991 from a woman who had heard rumors going around in Elkhorn, and particularly in the high school, that people were seeing something like a werewolf, or a wolf-like creature, or a wolf man. They didn't really know what it was, but a lot of folks were saying it was a werewolf. And the werewolf tag had just gotten used because nobody really knew what to call it. So Linda Godfrey started checking it out, talked to the editor of the week newspaper, and he said, why don't you check around a little bit and see what you hear? That was the end of December 1991. And being a weekly newspaper, that they weren't really into hard news, per se. They're much more feature-oriented. So I talked to a friend who had a daughter in high school, and the friend said that's what everybody's talking about. So she started her investigation and got the name of a woman who told her about the rumors in the high school. So she made a phone call to this part-time bus driver. They said she'd called the county animal control officer. So, of course, when you're a reporter, anytime you have a chance to find anything official, that's where you go. So she went to see him, and sure enough, he had a fold in his file drawer that he had actually marked werewolf. He said people had been phoning into him to say they had seen something. They didn't know what it was, but from their description, the best description anybody had was a werewolf. And that's certainly a news story. And when you have a public official, the county animal control officer, who's got a folder marked werewolf, well, golly gee whiz, folks, that's well news. And they took off from there. She got finding more and more witnesses. First, they all wanted to stay private, and she remember talking about it with the editor, and they thought they could run the story because it was be over in a couple of weeks. But then it was picked up by the Associated Press, and once it hit the Associated Press, everything broke loose, and people started going crazy. Milwaukee TV stations came out and did stories and dug around till they found witnesses and got them to change their minds and go on camera, but some of them later regretted it. And of course, that happened the investigation. Well, they were all mostly saying that they had seen something that was much larger than normal, sometimes on 2 legs and sometimes on 4, with a wolfish head. Some described it as a German Shepherd-like head, pointed ears, long, coarse, shaggy, and wild-looking fur. One thing they all mentioned was it would turn and look at them and gaze fearlessly, or some said leer at them. And it was that point that they all got really frightened. Everybody had seen it with the exception of one who'd been extremely scared because it was so out of the ordinary. It was something they couldn't identify, and it didn't appear to be afraid of them. Just casually turn around and disappear into the brush. It was never just out in the open where it didn't have some sort of hiding place nearby. Always a cornfield or some brush or woods. And that was pretty much the start of it. Once that got out, the reporter said she started finding other people who called her and got in touch with her, and she became sort of an unofficial clearinghouse for all these stories. And they began to call it the Beast of Bray Road because nobody really wanted to come forward and say beyond a shadow of a doubt it was a werewolf. The original site was in an area known as the Beast of Bray Road, which is outside of Elkhorn. Everybody seemed to have an opinion about this that they were eager to make known and defend, but there wasn't enough facts for anybody to really come to a conclusion. There were, according to the reporter, a dozen first-hand sightings, a few second-hand sightings. They dated back to 1936, and they all weren't around Bray Road. Quite a number out in the country. The one woman wrote her and insisted it was a wolf. A lot of people subscribe to that theory. It's definitely a wolf and can't be anything else, but that doesn't explain why it's so large. And it's got certain human characteristics to it. Been all sorts of theories. Mental patients escaping or some crazy guy running around. Another theory, of course, was somebody was pulling a hoax. That it's just somebody running around in a werewolf suit. Now, 1 or 2 appearances, that's what it could have been. But the incidents are isolated, not close together. In fact, one of the sightings was on Halloween. Also, when one of the people got a really good look at it, and they're sure it wasn't a human in a costume. Otherwise, most of them have been in really remote locations where if you're going to pull off a hoax, the person has to be sitting out there in the cold waiting for somebody to come along. But at the end of the day, everyone was pretty sure it wasn't a hoax. 2 hunters quite a bit further north saw what looked like 2 dog children standing up in the woods. They were too scared to shoot at it. Said they weren't tall, they were juvenile looking, standing upright. And that, for some reason, seemed to scare them. But otherwise, it's a single creature. Most of the sightings weren't recent, and so people can't remember too well what the moon was like. But most of the sightings occurred around the fall when the cornfields get big and there's really good cover for hiding. That's anywhere from late August through November. Now, there have been some sightings reported during the spring, but occasionally a reporter got letters from people who said they're lycanthropes themselves, and their theory this is an immaterial real werewolf and it can't control its transformation. And that's why it allows itself to be seen occasionally. And there are people who believe it's a manifestation of satanic forces. It is part of a demonic thing. They point to various occult activities around here. And there are people who try to link it to UFOs, of course. And then there's the theories it's just a dog. One woman who claimed she was a medium thought it was a natural animal, didn't know what it was. And there are a lot of folks in that part of the country that do wolf hybridizations. And that could account for the creature. But that doesn't explain the upright posture. And then there's the theory it's a creature known as a Wendigo, or Wendigo, which is featured in Indian legends, supposedly a supernatural creature that lives on human flesh. But none of the descriptions from the Wendigo legends described the creature having canine features. And there's another possibility. A lot of these people, it's possible, are seeing different things. And that when they heard somebody else talk about something, there's a tendency to say, oh, that must be what I saw. There's really no way to know. And there were differences in some of the sightings. There have been a lot of folks who say, could this be Bigfoot? Most of the sightings really don't sound like what people report as Bigfoot, though a couple of them do. And that one man who saw it in 1960 in a different area of the county who says positively what he saw was a Bigfoot. Doesn't want anybody to say he saw a werewolf. And the terrain around that part of the country isn't really typical, the sort of terrain that Bigfoot tends to hang out. There are woods and a big state forest, but it's a narrow band of forest. A lot of prairie, and it's not what you'd think Bigfoot would want to live in. But you never know. Then, of course, there's the theory that it might be a baboon. In her first book on the subject, Godfrey wrote to... part of the angle of the book is looking at this as a sociological phenomenon. How something that a number of people sees turns into a legend. It's become a bit of a legend. You know, a quarter of a century after Linda Godfrey began her investigations into the mystery of the Beast of Bray Road, her research and writing continue, and the sightings that are the creature continue to be reported. She's written a number of books, include The Beast of Bray Road, Werewolves, Hunting the American Werewolf, The Michigan Dog Man, and The Real Werewolf, The Werewolf Man. Taken collectively, it's clear that werewolves may not be creatures of fantasy, legend, and mythology. They might be real. And Bray Road may just be the place to go see them. Well, from Elkhorn, let's go back to the UK. Now, it is home to a wealth of strange and extraordinary animals, like the ABCs, the Loch Ness Monster, and the Big Gray Man of Ben Macdui. Then there's the matter of the nation's werewolves. Reports of British wolfmen date back more than 1,000 years and contain the key and staple ingredients of so many werewolf reports, such as a matter of shape-shifting, a full moon, and even silver bullets. While many reports of werewolves in the UK date from long ago, it's most assuredly not always the case. For example, the matter of a certain wave of werewolf sightings that occurred in central England in 2007 is something to take into consideration. It was a wave of sightings that attracted the attention of not just the general public, but both the local and the national media as well. It's intriguing to note that each and every encounter with the werewolf occurred in and around the very same place. A certain cemetery located in central England's expansive woods known as the Cannock Chase. According to the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, during the First World War, there was a large military camp at Cannock Chase, which became the base for the New Zealand Rifle Brigade. Also, a prisoner of war hospital that had 1,000 beds, and both camp and hospital used a burial ground. Cannock Chase War Cemetery contains 97 Commonwealth burials of the First World War. Most of them New Zealanders, and 286 Germans are buried there. Also, 3 burials from the Second World War. 58 German burials in Plot 4 were all brought to the cemetery in 1963 as part of the German government's policy to remove all graves situated in cemeteries or war grave plots not maintained by the Commonwealth War Graves Commission. As for the monster associated with the graves, it became infamous in April of 2007 thanks to a story that appeared in the pages of the local Stafford Post newspaper. According to the newspaper, a rash of sightings of a werewolf-type creature prowling around the outskirts of Stafford have prompted a respected Midlands paranormal group to go investigate. The West Midlands Ghost Club say they've been contacted by a number of the residents who saw what they claim to be a hairy wolf-type creature walking on its hind legs around the German War Cemetery just off Camp Road. Now, that's located between Stafford and Cannock. And several of them claim the creature sprang up on its hind legs and ran into nearby bushes when it was spotted. Well, according to the West Midlands Ghost Club, it's the person that the WMGC, that is the recipient of the initial batch of reports, according to the individual that reported it. The first person to contact anybody was and the WMGC, of course, is a West Midlands Ghost Club. First person to contact him was a postman. Said he had seen what he thought was a werewolf on a German war cemetery site. Said he was there on a motorbike and saw what he believed to be a large dog. But as he got closer, the creature got up on its hind legs and ran away. And there was a Cannock-based scout leader who had an encounter with the creature. And that was right in the middle of the cemetery. Said it just looked like a huge dog, but when I slammed the door of my car, it reared up on his back legs and ran into the trees. He said it was between 6 and 7 feet tall. Said, I know it sounds mad, but I know what I saw. It was a publicity given to these 2 cases in particular that prompted additional people to come forward with their own sightings reports and their theories of what it might have been. A mysterious and disturbing series of missing animals in the area. One source told the Stafford Post it's a fact there's a significant mining activity under the Cannock Chase for centuries. It's a fact that a high rate of domestic pet disappearances happen in that area, especially dogs that get off the lead. Ask anyone who walks their dog near the German War Cemetery. And it's intriguing to note that although the 2007 wave captured significant attention for a period of no less than 3 or 4 months, the area had been briefly hit by a very similar wave in 2006. For example, early on June 28, 2006, numerous motorists driving to work on the M6 motorway reported seeing a large wolf-like animal racing across the 6 lanes of the motorway at the height of the rush hour. Highway agency went and looked into the matter and came up blank and baffled. The local press started looking for all the information they could get. The Stafford Post and the Chase Post newspapers published all the comments they could find. Led several people to come forward with their own previously unknown sightings. And they're all basically similar. Location the same, the old cemetery. The nature of the creature was same. Had the ability to run on both 2 legs and 4, and when standing on his hind legs, got to a height of around 7 feet tall. And there's something else. All the newspapers got a sudden feeling that the beast was both supernatural and downright evil. At least that's what was reported by the witnesses. In addition, the way of publicity given to the 2007 encounters encouraged some people to come forward with reports that they predated the more recent encounters. Certainly the most fascinating account came from a man named Jim Broadhurst, who one day in June of 2006, he and his wife were taking a leisurely and pleasant walk through Cannock Chase Woods and saw what he estimated to have been at a distance of about 150 feet, a very large wolf making its way through the trees. Broadhurst said the initial amazement and excitement was replaced by nothing less than cold-hearted fear. And there was a good reason for that. The creature suddenly reared up on its hind legs and stared intently in the direction of the couple, making it abundantly clear it had seen them. And as Broadhurst speculated, wanted to let them know it had seen them. And as they watched, the wolf backed way further into the heart of the woods, and all the while keeping its eyes fixed on them, till it finally lost from sight. Of course, the Broadhursts themselves, very understandably, I think, didn't waste a second in getting out of the area and getting to the safety of their car. They didn't tell anybody about this sighting until 2007, when similar events of that year prompted them to finally speak out. Well, thankfully, though there have been a lot of disappearing pets in the area, there have not been any human casualties reported in this unsettling affair, and sightings of the cemetery werewolf finally faded away as the summer of 2007 moved into autumn. And as the days became shorter and the nights became longer, the creature seemed to fade into the mist. We'll probably never know what the creature was, where it came from, or where it went to, but for people who live in the vicinity of Cannock Chase German War Cemetery, it's likely to be a mayhem-filled few months they'll never forget. I mean, it's not every day that you find out a real-life werewolf is living in your own midst. That makes you wonder exactly who the werewolf is. Well, on that note, we come to the end of today's show. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk about more creatures of the night. Until then, this is Ken Hudnall for the Ken Hudnall Show, saying have a truly great evening.